Welcome to our council meeting at the Christmas season that we are starting at the moment. We are delighted to have with us and very honoured to have the Lord Lieutenant in Lonsdale with us this evening. And we will be having a presentation in just a moment. Before we do, I'd like to just share a bit of a welcome and a little bit of a message for the period in which we're in. First and foremost, it has been another difficult year. And as we draw to the end of this year, it is noted that we are on the brink of more uncertainty that coronavirus has brought us. I am ever impressed with the tremendous volunteer work done within our community to assist those who feel isolated and vulnerable. And I would like to thank anybody involved in this in whatever capacity. A huge thank you and an indebtedness to you. Thank you for what you're doing. Please keep doing what you're doing. Your unwillingness in this past is appreciated by so many more than you perhaps realise. So thank you very much for this. This evening we've got a special presentation, and I'd like to invite all the friends in Lonsdale up to the front here, where we've got the presentation of the COVID Memorial Fund, fitting up the invitation to the North London this evening. For the town council. So you're very welcome to come up to the front here.
Thank you.
Say a few words if you would like to.
Yes, I'd like to just say a few words, if I may, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much indeed for having crashed your party, and especially being with some serious rocking. Said, the lieutenancy and the Lord Lieutenant is actually laid down. I'm one of the deputies. If I was to be taken, that would be shot. Actually, already done. To act. Through the lieutenancy office, and we then come and do an inspection and interview of those people, or anybody who you think is particularly, as a result of what's happened, you feel is suitable for nominating for an honour, and we try and help with that as well. But to now go on to what I'm specifically here for this evening. The special importance of this plaque in Norfolk is that it represents a unique moment in time, which should be remembered as such by acknowledging in particular the work of communities across the county which pulled together in challenging times of the pandemic, and you highlighted that this evening. And I thank on behalf of the Lord Lieutenant the work that the volunteers have done in particular, and I've been around one or two of the parishes in the local area, and the stories I've heard have been amazing. The way people have come together, they supported each other and what have you. And if there's one thing that's come out of this dreadful thing that's happened over the last 2 years, if anything, it's drawn the communities closer together, people who may not have been speaking to each other and are speaking to each other, are supporting each other. And that has carried on over almost the last 2 years since the first started. Now, we have a plaque here. There are two sizes, and you being a town get the big size. So there it is. It reflects in a tangible way to both current and future generations how all parts of the community came together to support and look after each other to the mutual benefit of all in a real time of need. It is distinctively Norfolk, and I'll tell you, Norfolk does do different with these, because I don't think any other county in the country has done anything like this. This has been commissioned by Lady Janet. It's been offered to all 548, I think it is, parishes and towns throughout the whole county, and over 400 have said yes. We've been inundated with applications, so it's fantastic. As I say, you get a big one, and all the parishes get a small one. Norwich gets the same size as you, so you're on the same path. I say it's distinctly Norfolk as well because it was designed by somebody called Ruby Douglas, who is a recent graduate from the Norwich University of the Arts. She's based in Wyndham, and the wording was researched by Norwich's National Centre for Writing, using the simple but inspirational words of the 19th century Norfolk-born Harriet Martineau, who's often seen as the first female sociologist, and who says, live your best and act your best and think your best today, which I think really sums up what we're trying to achieve. The cost of these plaques has been fully covered by generous sponsorship from a number of Norfolk-based charities and organisations, and as a result, no public money whatsoever has been spent on this project. Sufficient plaques, I've mentioned, have been commissioned in order to provide one for every parish and town council in the county, and it's hoped that this will be taken up by all to remember what has been a truly unique and remarkable time, which brought great pain to many people in so many ways, but through which shone our community's care and thought for each other. And as Mr. Mayor, you alluded to, it still does, as we have yet another example from the Greek alphabet that nobody can really pronounce. That's probably why they chose the Greek alphabet, so that nobody can really pronounce it. It comes with a card from Lady Janet, and we thought of all things because there are the screws to put it up with and the caps that go on top. And it is for the whole community, and we have not said we think it should be here, there, or somewhere else, because clearly every single parish, every single town is different. So it's for you to obviously put either inside or out, because you made it in such a way, wherever you wish. And it even comes with an envelope, which I haven't stuck down, because once you stuck it down, you get stuck to it as well. So I will leave those there for you, and obviously present you, sir, with the plaque.
I believe the client is there to say.
I am.
Well, I'm sorry if I break the camera.
I'm just going to move so we don't get the kitchen door in the way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Not at all, thank you.
Taking the time of this awful work to come and see us.
Well, delighted and very honoured and particularly inspired.
Very, very much.
That's really good. And now I'll leave the card and the screws and whatever there, and that's all possible for you. Obviously, keep them marked otherwise. Thank you very much. Can you send me a copy of the photos so I can send it up to the Lieutenant's office? Not to screw my people.
Thank you very much.
You've got my email.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, and I'll now leave you to your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and to you, and for all that you've done, and continue to do. Yes.
Thank you. And that award is for all of those who were mentioned in my introduction this evening. You know, this is a reflection of the work we do. So thank you very much. Thank you. The next item on our business this evening, seems shame to carry on with the business after that. We all just go home. Let's see, we jumped at the night. Now, the next item is apologies for absence. I have two. Councillor Crouch can't attend this evening due to appointments, and Councillor Tyra also is in a meeting, an emergency meeting, is needed to attend this evening. So, wish them well. Onto item 4, the councillor co-option for vacancies. I have one other apology in relation to this, and that is the one applicant for this, Sharon Smith, isn't able to make it this evening. She isn't feeling up to be here tonight, so she won't be. So there will be the 3 candidates which we have in the room this evening. Thank you very much for attending. Hope you enjoyed the wine. It's fine. That's probably the highlight of being a councillor. The rest is hard work, and I'll scare you off. But we have got 3 candidates this evening. We have Sue McKinnon, lost my teeth there, Andy Roberts, and Peter Weller. So we'll do it in order of surname. So Sue first, would you like to take the hot seat, which is conveniently placed here, to give a brief introduction to yourself and then our councillors, if they so choose.
Should we not have mastermind music? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
My name's Sue McKinnon. I've lived in Ashborough for 9 years. I moved here from Cringleford, where I was for 16 years on Cringleford Parish Council, the last 6 as chairman. I've always been really interested in local politics, particularly town and parish councils, because they're not governed by party political, they're purely what's for the best of the village. I'm now retired. Within my working life, I was a project manager for an IT company putting in software in local authorities. So I'm well versed with dealing with local authorities from the Director of Education down to the lowest person who was being trained. I can speak to all people on all levels and hopefully get my message across. I have a degree in business studies. I also qualified as a Prince 2 practitioner project manager and have a fairly tidy and organised mind as to how things progress. I hope I could be of service. I've got a lot of experience, as you well know, with Cringleford. We were first to get our neighbourhood plan through to development, and with the building of Roundhouse Park, learnt a lot of the good things, some of the bad things, some things to watch out for. Mr. Mayor and I balanced the words balancing ponds the other night, and both went like that. I would like to be part of progressing this town. It's a lovely town, feels like a village, but it is a town, and I know that, and I know it's proud of being a town. But going back to what you were saying about the help that everybody is given, it is a village. It's a very, very big village. And I feel that the development that is going on, some people call it development, some people don't, but what it is going to happen, and it needs to be managed, and it needs to be managed carefully for the benefit of all the residents of Cringleford, not just the new people that are going to come in to move into those houses. And I feel I've got probably the expertise and practical knowledge from Roundhouse Park to be able to offer some help on that. And that's about it. Any questions?
Also, so does anybody have a question? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I did notice from one of the posts I put on the link page on Facebook that you had attended the Homes England presentation.
Yes, I did.
That was there on Tuesday.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, what your thoughts are on that in particular, or if there was anything that stood out to you that you might be interested in.
Yes, there were several things that. Did you really want an answer to this question? The first thing is this is going to happen, so it needs to be managed, and we can't let them tell us what's going to happen. It needs to be managed in cooperation between Homes England, the Town Council, the District Council, the County Council, and we need to make sure that our voice is heard. The one question that nobody could answer that I asked was, why is Harkham Road being closed off? And it looks to me like it's, unless anybody knows otherwise, it was presented as a fait accompli and nobody really questioned why. And those are the sort of questions and things that I would like to a question that somebody else asked on that night, where are they going to start building? Well, from my experience of Roundhouse Park, the first properties that were built were the affordable housing properties, because they're the ones that they have a guaranteed buyer for. So you will find that the affordable housing and housing association properties will probably go in first, because what was the word they used? The golden brick or something, which gives them the development, which is absolutely fine and great, but it all needs to be understood and managed, and not to be told what's going to happen, to make sure that this town council has its say in what is going to happen, and bears in mind the current residents as well as the new residents. And also, there were several good things. There was the extra play areas, the balancing ponds, which, yes, that's another whole other thing. But it can be an asset. We've got to make sure it's an asset for the whole village. Thank you.
That's all right.
And you've obviously had a lot of experience with it on parish council. and you understand the different areas that we cover. Is there one area in particular that you're quite passionate about? Is it finance?
Not really, no. I am passionate about the developments because it's going to go on. And as we were saying in the conversation earlier this year, this all started from when John Prescott was Deputy Prime Minister and sent out this diktat that 26,000 houses, I think it was 26 or 36,000 houses, had to go in this area by 2026. And we knew from then how many that each area was going to get. And that it wasn't a choice, it was going to happen. So the answer is you can't stop it, manage it. And that is one of the things that I do feel very strongly about. But I'm also very interested in, I've got grandchildren that live in this village. I've got three, a son, daughter-in-law, and three grandchildren. You know Nicola, don't you? So three grandchildren that live in this village. And I want this to be a lovely place for them to grow up in.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, sir. I'll take a seat.
General knowledge comes later. That's special subject.
So, Andy, would you like to jump on? Thank you. Once again, you give an opportunity to give a brief introduction to yourself.
Well, I'm probably the most recent entrant to this town in this room because I've only been here 4 months. Although I'm a Norfolk born and bred boy, most of my adult life has been spent in other parts of England and Wales for work because I've been a civil servant until I retired in 2014 all my life in various government departments. But I'm looking around the town with open eyes to what I see, and particularly on the south end of the town where I live, and I'm an avid user of public transport and very keen to see that there's excellent public transport in this town. I won't repeat what you've probably read on my CV. I have been on University Challenge many years ago. It's not as a university student because in the early 2000s the BBC put on a series some of you may remember called The Professionals. And I was actually on the very first programme that was televised, representing the Cabinet Office, unfortunately losing to the Trade Union Congress. That was a close game, so Crackman said, we'll have that as the first one of the series. But it was good. It was quite exciting to go to the studios in Salford. We looked after. For the past 6 years, I've been living in Wyndham, and coming back to my roots on retirement, so to speak. And for the past 5 years, I've been a member of the Wyndham Town team, helping to organise few common events in the town, getting one's hand dirty, getting up ladders, putting up Christmas lights, and 2 weeks ago, putting in the Christmas trees along the marketplace as part of the team. Taking up half a day doing that. It doesn't matter what the weather is like, you just do it. I'm very keen that this town can develop a sort of central community spirit to get more people to come in from outside. To, for example, if you were going to develop a sort of an internal market day, something I'm very keen that Wyndham's had or has, and I'd like to see that brought back to the town to the benefit, not just of the residents, but the benefit also of the local traders as well, because they'll get the plus from people coming in from outside. I have a disability in the sense that I am suffer of multiple myeloma, so I was treated for cancer 11 years ago, and I'm on long-term remission and long may it stay. I feel great. And I'm an experienced administrator. I've got a master's in business administration, which I did through the Open University whilst working. So that took a lot of time and effort, but I enjoyed it very much. And I want to provide my experience in being a person who's used to going through documents and papers and such like, and the briefings I have had to do for ministers to stand up in Parliament and things like that. to the benefit of this council and the town. So that's me.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillors? They're giving you an easy night tonight. You can tell we're coming up to Christmas. No? Well, thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you.
You just got a seat and then we'll have Peter.
Right, my name's Peter Wenham. I've been in Asbrook just coming up to 34 years. I think now I've been in Norfolk for over 30 years, I've now been accepted. But no, when I first moved up here, it was a lovely little market town. It's doubled in size. It's going to double in size again. And I'd like to be involved with the growth and the movement of the town, especially in open spaces and well-being. I moved up here with a small firm. Unfortunately, 9 months after I moved up here, they went into liquidation. I'm not one to sit around. I was on the phone continuously, and I managed to get myself a job within 2 days. And I work for Royal Mail, and I communicate a lot with the residents of Attleborough, and I get feedback from them, you know, about different things. So I'd like to bring that forward. I've got a lot of interest in outdoor spaces and health and well-being, particularly, you know, for open spaces for play and all this sort of thing, and cycle tracks. And I've also been involved with Norfolk Wildlife Trust. I'm a member of a lot of societies. I've worked at Royal Horticultural Society Gardens for a day, which was quite interesting thing. I've also done voluntary work with children with Down syndrome, and also work with people with dementia. So I see where their needs are in the town as well. It's important that with the new build and the way we're moving forward, that we bring in everyone in the community. It's not just all for, you know, small groups. It's for everybody, people that are in nursing homes and everything. We need to provide everything. Yes, I've never been on the town council or parish council. I have been on a number of committees. We used to have a speakers committee at one time, which was quite I didn't enjoy it quite as much as that. I haven't been on University Challenge. I was on Police 5 once, but not as a guilty party. I was actually helping out, and the camera just caught me, and it went on and it went viral as well. But that wasn't anything bad. But no, my thoughts are, we've got this development coming. We've got to work with them. We've got to work with Homes England and Tarlequin. And after seeing the presentation on Tuesday in Town Hall here, I think that was the best presentation they've done. They've done, you know, the other presentation, but they explained that a lot better. And I just wish that more people had come along and seen it. And if we can work with them, that, you know, like, you know, I'm very much for the environmental, you know, the open spaces, and you know, sort of, I'm waffling a little bit. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Peter. Any questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor wants to ask a question, but she feels she's only one person that's always asking questions. So, right.
Yeah. And to be honest, I feel like it's no secret that obviously myself and Pete bloomed together.
Yeah.
So I do know Pete on a personal level, but I do know that also like there is a level of commitment that Pete's already shown to the community with helping out with the book stand. He's here every single day. So so I don't really have a question, no, but I did just want to point out before we move any further, although I don't feel I have an interest in it, I do know Pete.
Yeah, I'm a member of locally the Bloomers, the Asbrook District Gardens Club. Also get help with Elizabeth, and I get involved with anything, and I also do a certain amount of fundraising for like the British Heart Foundation and the Alzheimer's Society and any other small causes, you know, sometimes, you know, get involved.
So my only question is, do you have time to be a councillor?
I make time. I was asked many years ago to be a councillor, and I said at that time I wasn't able because I couldn't put the time in. But if I join anything, I'll put 100% in. I won't put myself forward and not, you know, commit myself.
Thank
You
you.
know,
It's appreciated. Thank you, Peter. Unless there's any other questions? No, you can grab a seat. Yeah. Okay. As councillors, you're aware, there are 3 current vacancies that we have in the town council. And this evening, we have 3 good candidates presenting themselves. But as we need to follow the protocol of the co-option process, we need somebody as a proposer and a seconder and a vote to accept the co-option process for said candidates. So we will go in alphabetical order. Sorry, Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, although Sharon isn't here this evening,
Yes.
she should still be considered.
You, sorry,
So we
Councillor
have
Taylor.
4, but we only have 3 present.
Very, very true, actually. Thank you very much for keeping me on the straight and narrow. And I'm still learning, and it's my 30th year of being in Norfolk now, so I might just be accepted. So we're learning together. So get there. So yes, we do need to also, within the paper pack as received, to consider Sharon as well. She's absent here, but she has submitted an application, so that is also for consideration. So do any of the councillors want to propose any of the candidates?
Do you want us to leave the room?
No, please stay. Please stay, you're very welcome to stay. Alphabetically, yes, the first one of these, sorry, no, alphabetically, sorry, is on the voting process. I'm jumping one step ahead. So you can propose any of the councillors. Councillor Lane.
Could I propose Peter, please?
Peter,
Well,
do we have a seconder for Peter? Councillor is fine. Okay, and we will see if there's any proposals first before we do the votes. Okay, and any other proposals? Councillor Taylor, sorry. I did see you.
Oh, I was actually going to ask if I could propose 2 candidates.
You're welcome to, within the policy it allows such.
Yeah, I would like to propose Sue and also Andy for me.
Okay, second, Councillor.
going to propose Andy Roberts.
Okay.
Yeah, well, sorry. Do you want to do them separately, just in case?
No, that's fine, that's fine. We've got to go through them in alphabetical order, we'll vote anyway.
Okay.
So yes, and is there a second then for Sue? That's right. So are there any for Sharon? No? Okay. Okay, we'll go through it in alphabetical order then. That means the proposal is that we have Sue McKinnon as a councillor through the co-option process. We have a show of hands for approval from councillors, please. That is unanimous. For Andy Roberts as a councillor, show of hands for approval. Unanimous. And finally for Peter Wenham, a show of hands for approval, please. That is unanimous. You have been all unanimously elected as councillors of town council. Heaven help you. Well done. Well done. Now we look forward to working with you, and we thank you. You know, we thank you for the sacrifice of both your willingness to do this and the very obvious desire that you have to want to make our community better. So thank you very much. You are welcome to join with us, albeit you're very welcome to stay there as well if you're a bit more comfortable. we're not able to take you as a vote, or voting in councillors until the paperwork is signed as a council for acceptance. But until then, honorary council members. So thank you very much. Okay. And as such, you know, if you do want to voice your opinion as we're discussing this evening, I would want to hear that as well. Okay. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, just before we move on, I thought just because we obviously did have 4 applicants, now that congratulations by the way, I thought I'd just maybe give a reason for my nominations and for my proposals, just for a little bit of transparency. I thought that Andy could potentially, if he's interested, be a real asset to the Events and Communications Committee from the things that he was discussing. And I also thought that, you know, Sue's experience in Cringleford could be an asset to Outdoor as we go forward. And like I said, obviously I know Pete and I know the dedication to the community is already shown. So I am pleased that he's also got his seat.
Thank you very much. The next item is another resignation of councillor, which is Sue Marsh. That's included in the pack. And that vacancy will be advertised in due course once confirmation from the district council has been put that to the town. Can I just just have a look at the next item of this? Item number 5, which is Standing Order Review Committee, has a vacancy as a result of Sue Marsh's resignation as a councillor. Are you happy for me to defer this until this January's meeting, when the said 3 councillors who are now being accepted as councillors have an opportunity to put their name forward should they choose to?
Yeah, good idea.
Just,
We're not.
We're not going to meet again before then,
We
anyway.
don't have a meeting until February. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
We don't have a meeting until February anyway. So that's absolutely fine.
as chair of that said committee, you can do that.
Yeah, if that's a proposal. I'll
As a
second it.
proposer, second that, can we have a show of hands for approval? And can we also make a note that we give an opportunity in the same meeting in January for councillors to evaluate any additional places on committees, because we have the environmental committee, we have the events communication committee, and we want councillors involved in these. We don't want you to be sitting there until the next elections come around in April, May time before we can fill on those places. If you're willing to work, we want to work with you. So, are you okay, councillors, to take that approach in the January meeting? Yeah. Councillor Lane.
Could I also say if there's any meeting, committee meetings you want to come to, particularly events, before then, please come along. We're not on, actually on, well, anyone can come along.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Okay. I'm not sure whether I have to do that as a proposal or whether you're happy for me to put that on the agenda for next week with the guidance. Okay. Thank you very much. On to the next one, declarations of interest. This appears a lot lower down the agenda than what we're used to. Yes.
Item 13 on the latest form, the directors.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Item number.
Sorry, which one?
11A.
Okay, and that's to do with Christmas lights, I presume.
Yes.
And Councillor Taylor, is that the same?
Yeah, so there's the Christmas lights, and also, so that's a personal interest. I also noticed that on the checklist, there's a payment for Anthony Collins, but in the description, it says judicial review claim. So I don't know if
That's
that's just,
not in relation to you. That's in regard to the negligence claim that
yeah.
we are pursuing. So there is no interest for councillors on that.
Can I don't know if it's too late, but after the meeting, could that maybe be amended so that it says that it's the negligence, just so
Well, we
there's
can
no
do that whilst we're
confusion?
going through the meeting now. It'll
Yeah,
be too late after the meeting, but it can be noted now that we asked for that amendment during the
yeah,
meeting,
during the item.
during the item, yes.
Thank you.
So I will make a note of that now. I too have an interest actually in item number 11A, which raises a question about procedure this evening, which we will need to touch. as there is a payment to Eastern Attachments of which I'm the director of. So that is an interest. Our deputy mayor is not with us this evening. So for 11A, and then we may as well do that now, so we just skip this away. Would anybody like to take the chairmanship for that item 11A? Yes.
Can I say, if Vera doesn't mind, I thought actually sat at the top of the table. It would make sense.
She's got
This
more
is
experience.
this is where I was put.
For purpose.
Yeah, that's a bit sneaky.
So you propose Vera as chair for that item, seconded by Debbie Lane, and a show of hands for approval. You can approve yourself as well. Yes, so it's unanimous. So for 11, you will be then after this week and move ourselves from there. Okay, thank you. Just to keep things right. Are there any other interests to declare? Any pecuniary interests? I think we've covered those already. Right. Item number 7. Thanks for being patient. It's public participation. Any comments, queries, questions? Nigel.
Quick one, fabulous Christmas lights. Really good this year. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Yes, Michael.
I hate coming here. Excuse me, I'm having a dig. Here goes. Fantastic you appear to have committed to a skateboard park in about 6 to 8 months. Still haven't got my bloody hedge cut. It's December. The next thing will be, it's the bird's nesting season. You're supposed to be replacing it in 3 months' time.
Yes.
Can someone please come and tell us what's going on?
No,
The
absolutely.
brick pattern's forming. Your guys
Sorry.
drive past it every day to get to that shed behind me. It's disappointing.
I apologise, Nigel, because that should have been taken care of. Now we had agreed to as a council to do so. The clerk is now making a note.
Yeah.
And we'll be chasing that through. Thanks, Nigel, for raising it. Now we want to do that, right?
Yeah, just to cover up that, down the south in that, they're cutting all the hedges now. So, you know, that's like divert. At long last, just go down and cut that recreation hedge. That reminds me a long while of water. And they're making a nice job down the south hill. There's a lot of trimming and hedges that being done.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
I shall divert.
Any other comments, questions, points raised? Nigel, you're going for 3 in a row. Well done.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch all your extraordinary meetings about professional vehicles, technical, whatever it was. The bit I got to, everyone seems to be enthusing about Mitsubishis and double cabs and whatever. And I would back what Vera said. These work for them, they are a very good vehicle. However, if it's still in the running, do check your after sales for Mitsubishi and no longer in the UK market. They have withdrawn. So just double check you're not digging yourself into a hole.
We have now procured that, which is going to be mentioned later. That's fine, but we have checked prior to that. And Renault are taking over the service responsibilities for the foreseeable future for Mitsubishi.
Have you considered actually any point of placing out the lease vehicle? Thinking about the comment that was made about electric coming in.
We have, but the finances didn't quite work for that at the moment. Getting hold of new vehicles for lease vehicles as well is problematic. With the pressing need. But yes, good point. Okay, anyone else? We'll proceed. Okay. Item number 8, and that is the minutes of the town council meeting held on the 1st of November. Any comments, queries, or corrections?
Yes,
Councillor Dale?
page 2, it wasn't going back to capital, it was going back to cabinet. Sorry, the local plan.
Right, it's the, yes, we've got it.
It's sent back to capital, it wasn't, it was going back to cabinet. Look at it, which is now been done, thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a proposal for acceptance with the amendment? Councillor Westby and Councillor Lane second that. And a show of hands for approval, please. Thank you, that's unanimous. The next item is the minutes of the Attleborough Neighbourhood Plan Committee, which is now dissolved, but it has to come to committee for approval. Any comments, queries, questions? Would anyone like to propose acceptance of those minutes? Councillor Dale, anyone for seconding? Councillor Ellis, and the show of hands for approval. If you weren't present, that's fine. Opposed? Abstain? Set purpose. Thank you, that's been carried. Planning matters, item 9, sorry, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, the only thing that I was just going to pick up before we move away from the minutes is that a report was supposed to be produced for the December meeting, and it's not been, so it's just a slight reminder that obviously in our January meeting, can that please be forthcoming?
Time provided, yes. We'll try and give you an update at least. 9A, applications and that have already been agreed and responses made, confirmation by members. Would anyone like to propose those if there aren't any comments?
Have you got comments?
Sorry, is that proposed? No, proposed. Councillor Montague, Councillor Lane to second, chance for approval. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Councillor Dale, is that because you're on the planning? Yeah, okay, thank you. And 9B, plan applications not due yet. The first one ends 1514F, which is land north of A11 for proposed solar panels. Any queries, comments, questions, etc.? I, for one, am all for green energy. So anything that adds to the area with that, I would support. And it is sympathetic to the area. So I have no objections. Does anyone have any objections, Councillor? No, so no objections. The next item, 1543/VAR, land south of, land to the southwest of Elmham Road, variation of condition number 16, which is a rewording condition prior to occupation of development regarding off-site on-road works. I don't have any objections personally, haven't seen it. Any objections, comments? No? And finally, 1549/HW, which is 5 Clement Drive, direction of Graniacs. I take your silence as no objections. No objections. I don't see any that. I hope you take a chance to have a look at this and seems sympathetic again and appropriate, which concludes that. So, for way of confirmation, I propose that we have no objections to their comments for those 3 items under 9B. Anyone wants to second that? Councillor Taylor, and the show of hands for approval. Thank you. And objections? Abstentions. Number 1. That's it. Okay, yeah. Any council reports? Sorry, Councillor Lane, just get this.
Yeah, just like to make a quick report on the events committee previous meeting that we've had. We've now, as an update, advertised the book sale and asking for requests for donations from local community groups. The deadline for that is the 14th of January. So anybody who would like to ask for some money from the monies raised, get in touch with us. We've also set the date for the next book sale, which we are going to run over 3 full days, the 11th, 12th and 13th of March. So we will start, well, we've already started appealing for books. So any books that anybody wants to donate to us, we can come and collect, or they can be dropped off here. We also had discussions about a community newsletter. We're hopeful that we will get something together for the spring. We're at the moment collecting prices and looking at the best format for it to follow. Forward planning, we have an in-depth plan for next year, which needs seriously going through. There's various events which we think the towns should acknowledge on a national basis. Then there's other events which we should acknowledge on a local basis. And we've actually put that forward to the next meeting to discuss in more detail, because it is a huge piece of work to go through. And the next meeting is on Monday, the 13th of December, so we'd like to see everyone there if they want to contribute.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors? Councillor Weston?
Just a brief update on the personnel committee. We interviewed a number of candidates for the groundsperson position. All very good candidates, and we've got a meeting tomorrow night to validate our choice. Not such good news on the cleaner or assistant caretaker. There's been very little take up on that, so we're still considering options on that front, and we'll discuss that further tomorrow night again.
Thank you very much. As noted on the agenda, it is also for district and county councillors, should they be in attendance to do so. Can I just clarify something? I'm still learning in this process. I'm a newbie councillor, really. Do we need to suspend the standing orders for a report from someone from a district council if they're not sitting?
No, because there's provision made on the agenda.
Because there is. I thought that was the case, but I wanted to make sure, because we've done it a few times, start to lose track. I like to do it the right way, so I appreciate the support. So, Keith, do you have anything you'd like to raise?
Not much, Mr. Chairman. We've had very interesting meetings with Homes England, put my points of view to them, because we had them up here, you know, with Simon Wood as well. So that's some more vision for them. The application for Britain Brush, Hamlet Lake, or I call it Britain Brush, what it was before, which the church have put in, is hasn't come to committee yet, or the case officer hasn't given their decision to my knowledge, but they sent all their summary in, right? But there's a good report in the EDP today about what they're proposing, so if anyone wants to read it, they can. And yeah, that's about it. We had a planning meeting at Durham, and I can't remember when I've done the last one, but the one in Eden side was passed, that one, 5-4, I think it was, so that one there. But otherwise, we've got full council this week, Thursday, which will be quite the longest meeting. So, yeah, coming to the end of the year.
Thank you. And just a disclosure, really, we've had some very good meetings with referent officers recently. And so we are looking forward to working productively and cooperatively as we move forward in a new way with the opportunities in front of us. It's nice to have amicable, constructive way forward in a unified manner. So yes, thank you very much for the efforts. And any other reports?
Yes, I seem to spend most of the month at Wrexham, but not things that affect Attleborough. The thing that is coming up over and over again, and I think it's something we as a council need to look at as well, is members' development. You know, looking at what, we had a meeting the other day, looking at what actual councillors require and what they want. And I think perhaps we need to look at what, actually you never know it all. There's always areas where we need to learn, and I think it's a way forward for us as well.
Yeah, and in fact, we do have a really good working relationship with North Parish Training Board. You know, they've been very good to us since we've been using them this year. And new councillors have had courses with them, so new councillors who get an opportunity to have induction courses, but also other courses that will help in planning in other areas that you may take an interest in. So I propose, you know, in a way that we continue the work that we're doing to allow that to be open. Sorry, Councillor Taylor.
I was literally going to say what you just said.
Great mindset. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the reports. We are now on item 11, financial matters. So those with a community interest in item 11A, including myself, will now leave the meeting and hand over to Councillor Dale, who will be acting chair.
Just for clarity, mine's a personal interest. I don't benefit in any way.
Okay.
So I'll pay, but I won't pay.
What's the kitchen at last? We've got payments on December. Has anybody got any queries?
Yeah.
Yes?
Right at the bottom, the Mitsubishi, the price on it is a little bit higher than the price we were told. I just wondered if the pound was.
Oh, warranty.
Okay.
Okay, you happy with
Yeah,
that?
that's fine.
Anyone else got any queries, questions? You're happy? Oh, sorry.
I was just a Taylor's amendment. Do I propose that now to the Anthony Collins one? Judicial review claim.
I've already noticed that.
So that's
earlier.
fine, that's
I'm
fine,
happy with that.
Happy with that?
Oh, actually, yeah, the other thing, you know, the valuation price. You know, when we looked at the valuation, there was a higher figure. You know, for this valuation we were having done. So that figure there, have we still got to pay some more?
No,
That's it now.
Yeah.
And well, because we'd already used them before.
Yeah, it would have cost us significantly more to have a new one done from scratch, but this was a review and sort of bringing the index up to date.
Anybody else got any queries? You all can have a proposal to accept payment. Councillor Lane and seconded by Councillor Westman. You can come back now, Mr. Mayor. Okay.
Is that a no?
Sorry. Oh, we should have voted. Yeah, we didn't vote it. Those in favour, it's all right.
I'll leave my vote.
That's all right, I've done it.
Don't worry.
Those in favour of accepting. It's a good job you were awake. You can come back. See, I'm out of practice.
Good job, the mince pies goes in the end.
There are no mince pies or wine there, and I don't drink anyway, so I don't be much good. Okay, thank you very much for that. Item 11B, to agree direct debits. Does anybody have any questions first? No. Do we have a proposer for acceptance? Councillor Montague and Councillor Lane, second, and a show of hands for approval. Any opposed? Abstaining? No, so that's approved. To receive income, 11C. Any questions? Anyone want to propose acceptance? Councillor Dale, Councillor Montague, second, and a show of hands for approval. Okay, that's unanimous. And for information, we have petty cash receipts there or payments. Any queries? Yes, Councillor Lane.
I've just seen from this person who does litter picking.
Yeah, I'm on the bottom.
It's on 3.5.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
That's litter picking equipment.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
stuff that those things we use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was somebody, you know, we were paying.
Sorry.
It was mileage for the caretaker to use his vehicle.
I'm sorry, sir.
To collect them.
So if you look, it's under mileage,
Oh, right. Fine.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
actually,
because we didn't have a company vehicle, so we had to use it was quite smelly.
there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Any other queries, questions? No? Item 11E, income and expenditure for October questions? That's all I mean.
I don't know if bring this up now or bring this up after our budget. I've just noticed that we've got a line for an AMP budget. So I'm wondering, that hasn't been used, whether that would be what we're going to do with that.
So that has been predominantly spent in the past on anything to do with the OP, whether it's consultations, if it's any consultancy we need. We could potentially use that towards other projects. I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to remove it from the budget being new because there might have been something in the pipeline and with that money might still to be spent, but it could potentially be used for other things to benefit our project.
Yeah, because we didn't use any of it last year, and we haven't used any of it this year.
No.
Maybe that's something we could.
Technically, we kind of used a bit of it in the topographical survey that we did in the decoy common. But we've also received some S106 money as well to offset that. But
Right, so
that
that's-
project is also, as you are aware, still live
Yeah.
and may suck up some of those funds anyway, because the chances are it's going to be more than the money that we got from the S106 money to do the first stage of those works.
Right.
That's what's earmarked at the moment. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, on to item 12, which is the draft budget and precinct request for 2022-23. I'm going to hand over a little bit of this to Michelle, who's very kindly put this together. And at the deep end a little bit, so please be good.
Yeah.
Be kind. This is not an easy task at the best of times. So with so many things up in the air and so many projects that we're looking to work on at the moment, this is what's being presented. So does anybody have any questions or queries on this first?
Yeah, I was just going to say, did Michelle just want to give a brief run through? Because before the meeting, we did discuss we now have the Events and Communications Committee, that obviously in their last meeting was discussing a budget for the committee. And to be honest, I don't know if the same would apply for the Environmental Committee as well, so, and how they're going to be funded. So I don't know if there's any ideas on how we can kind of squeeze that in.
Okay, so in terms of what you've got in front of you at the moment, a lot of that is quite predictable. It does include some increases for things that we know are going to happen but are quite volatile, such as utilities and things like that. You'll notice that there isn't an amount in the budget for the skate park, which is going to be a substantial cost. That will come straight from our general reserves so that the taxpayer won't be funding that again, so to speak. And also there's another big project that we've got ongoing at the moment, is London Road, and we already have earmarked reserves for London Road. So if anyone's wondering why those two big projects aren't in the budget, that is the reason. The precept that is shown here shows a small increase of just under 3.5%. However, since I drafted this budget, we have spoken about other things, as we discussed before the meeting, such as the desire to get a regular, good quality communication form in hard copy out to all of our residents. If we want to do that, we need to build that into the budget. Although we haven't got final costs, we know from the estimates that we've got that if we were to produce it in-house, which is the cheapest way, that you are going to be looking for print and production at around £1,000 to £1,200 a month. Sorry, not a month, per issue. So if you wanted to do it quarterly or bi-monthly, I would suggest we need to add at least £6,000 for that purpose. That would be my recommendation. I know there's also the Jubilee and an aspiration to do a lot more things for the community in terms of events next year. And obviously, when we put more things on and we're more active as a town council, we will have to fund some of those things. So I think that also needs to be considered, and also any major projects that will be significant expense that you might want to do with the environmental committee. Now is the time to flag those up. Just as an indication, if we did, for example, add £10,000 to a new events line in the budget that would cover all the communication and give a buffer for events, that would still bring the precept in at just less than 5% increase, which in terms of a band D taxpayer is about £2.54, just to give you an idea of the differences you're talking about there.
And that £2.54 is over the course of the year.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Just for general information, could we share what our increase was over the last couple of years?
Oh.
I don't actually have that, if I'm honest.
Yes. Last year was actually a reduction. We were the only parish to have a reduction last year. So yes, and that was around about 1.6, 1.7% reduction in your tax. The year before, it went up at around about, you might say about 4.5%, 5%, wasn't it?
Okay. I think it might be a little bit more than
Was
that.
it?
I think.
Now, I think the recommendation or what we asked for was 12, and I think it was 10 that was agreed.
Really is
I
like
think
that.
so, yeah.
That was just before my time.
Yeah, I think.
I think the minutes say 12%, but when I got my bill, it said 10.
Okay. But I know last year's was a real terms reduction. When we voted that through, we were trying to work within the budgets and reset that a little bit.
Yeah, the precept was the same, wasn't it? But I think because it's spread over more people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my thoughts on this, partly for consideration, were what we really don't want to do is put people in a position where you potentially don't have these very gradual increases, and then we realise in 3 or 4 years' time that we've got a real deficit, we need to jump up, and that's a horrible shock for everybody. Inflation is going to peak at around 4% for next year. So I think this is not unreasonable at all in terms of the percentage that would be going up to where we are as a country right now.
I think when you're looking at it, thank you for doing calculations there, £2.54 on a band B for the year. And the level of services that we can offer in addition as a result of that increased communication and events that really affect the community, and with the ambitious plans that we have on the redevelopment of our green spaces moving forward within the town. It is probably a worthwhile investment. No one likes taxes going up, at least for me. But this is one of those things that we have to be a bit more pragmatic about. I think that probably offers very good value. Agree. Councillor Lane.
I'd like to say that if we do decide to go with this, I think with the improved committee structure we've got now and the improved communications that we've got coming up, we'll be able to keep the electorate informed about what we're actually spending their money on. And I think they'll be more receptive if they know that these increases, like they're actually seeing something for their money rather than just pushing it up and then not seeing it.
Very valid comment. Sorry, yes, Councillor Best, Councillor Smith, and then Councillor Taylor.
This discussion has reminded me of the growth of electrical vehicles, and it becomes more and more clear every day that the government is focused very much on this. We don't know yet what proportion of money would come to ratepayers or indeed to councillors, but I do wonder whether we should perhaps think about where could charge points go, and how we could approach this issue and help people who are trying to save money on their car vehicles.
It's yeah, it's another valid point. it probably is outside the remit of the town and parish council to get strictly involved in these areas, because my understanding is that the county particularly are focusing on this as area of communication with the electrical providers and the infrastructure that's required to support that. But it's of note that the government policy recently has changed, that new houses in the next year or so will be required to have a car charging point installed in every new house, which will affect those houses going in already on the London roadsides, but particularly those in the urban extension that we've been referring to as Homes England. And the infrastructure needs to be in place for these. It is something that we're going to see a tremendous amount of investment in, but it is going to be coming more and more sourced from local government initiatives, central government initiatives, because it is their big policy that we're seeing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was going to raise this under the parish partnership scheme to see whether or not anything could be obtained through there. And I do think that Councillor Busk has an excellent point. If we can lead the way in having these charging points in Athens, it will attract people to come into the town, I'm quite sure. And eventually, I think most towns will have these. And I think we ought to be in the forefront to try and expedite it.
Sorry, yes, sir.
Can I just query a few lines?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so 4031 computer to the bottom of the first page, label 12. I'm just wondering what that covers. That's £9,000 budget for. Is that replacing equipment, or is that things like website? And
No, that is, I put £9,000 in because we always put significantly less and we always overspend. So that covers the operations that we use, so Microshade, Net Central, basically those, isn't it? It's the maintenance and support
yeah,
from both of those.
does there need to be any for refreshing equipment?
The only thing we need is a laptop,
Which we're looking at.
which we're looking at the moment, so it'll be in this budget, I
That's in
think.
this budget.
On the next one, 4061 elections. I am right in thinking that there should be elections coming up.
It's actually after that term.
Right.
So 23 is the next time we'll have an
Okay,
election.
that's fine.
Yeah.
23, 24.
Yeah. Sorry, got more. 4121 telephone. That seems like a lot of telephone calls. £4,000. Considering a lot of tariffs now have included minutes.
I'm not sure that we get the same sort of deals as business users as we do as, but we can certainly look into that. But as you can see, the actual year to date, we're at 2,700, and that's in an office that's been working from home partially.
Yeah, it just seems a lot of money.
Yeah.
Be spending on telephones.
Yeah, no, I agree. We can certainly have a look into that.
Yeah.
I think it might be something to look at the new voice systems.
Yeah.
That might be something for us to have a look at.
Yeah.
And the last one, which is basically pages further along, it's right at the bottom of the page, and it's expenditure 4400, the AMP, budget 5,000. Well, obviously the AMP doesn't exist as such, but the money. I know we've spoken about that, but is it right that we're calling it AMP on the budget?
We could rename it as projects or something, maybe like Phil said, that could go towards Decon Common, which is an AMP project still.
I mean, we could rename that. I mean, it's under historic because we have to demonstrate where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
But in the new year, it could be something under the environmental.
Well, what I was actually going to say is, it says agro-neighbourhood plan, and regardless of whether or not we have an agro-neighbourhood plan committee, we still have an agro-neighbourhood plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is
So
now adopted
actually,
by,
So
then that would definitely come under the environmental, we've taken on a lot of those projects.
Yeah, so I think that would fit that scope.
Sorry, there was just one more, sorry.
Yeah.
Couple of pages on 4146 play equipment. Now, I know we're looking at doing quite a lot of work with play equipment, and the £5,000 budget is for that. So is that repair of play equipment?
It's repairs, it's extra little bits and bobs that we might need. We've had one that we've had a tyre replaced on.
That's fine.
It's just smaller items.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, the one that I was actually gonna say was the play equipment. Because although I noticed we have a very long list of things that come from the walkabout, with the play equipment, predominantly it was repainting or, do you know what I mean, cleaning them down. So it wasn't necessarily things that were going to cost a fortune. And I did wonder, because on the budget, obviously it says that that money hasn't been spent for the last 2 years, and that's been allocated, whether or not that could be drawn into the environment. Obviously, you've just said that would probably benefit from the neighbourhood plan money, because obviously the environment and neighbourhood plan overlap so much and because they're so close. But I didn't know if, like, do you know, combining the two amounts would give a little bit more scope for the amount of work that we're looking at doing.
I agree, it's certainly there to be used for that purpose. But having it as a separate item then gives the clerk license within her mandated roles and authority to use it on those repairs without bringing it to council for approval. In some instances, for maintenance, that's absolutely necessary. Probably pays to keep it separate at this point, so they have a license. But the bigger projects that we're looking at, when we get those projects in the pipeline moving forward, we do have reserves. We've got S106 money that we put into the reserves for these purposes, and that's where we'll be drawing on those. And if there's additions, they will be coming to the council for approval.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other, yes, Councillor Lane?
4298, COVID general expenses. I'm wondering whether we should allow for, not necessarily COVID, but any pandemic.
That was a real, it got me really sort of plain dark, wasn't it, and with what to put in there.
Because you don't, we don't know, but I mean, I'm not saying we should allow more, it's just that we have, you know, this came from nowhere, and you know, do we need, I mean, do we need
You're
some
suggesting we rename that something else?
Yes, basically, rather than COVID general expenses, to name it as a.
Emergency general expenses?
Yes.
Something like that.
Right. So then, you know, if there were. Just so there's something there.
I mean, we're still in COVID, aren't we? So,
Yes, we are.
you know,
But
we can
something else.
change it going forward, but we have to leave it now.
Yeah, you can't sort of rename the line and lose the historic data.
I've got it, yeah.
So we can do something different, but until that line has sort of gone more than 3 years back, it will always exist.
Yeah. So.
It may well be, the solution to that, if the coding is available, is that we're in the existing coding one at the moment. We run that at 0 for the next financial year.
Yeah.
And replace it with, say, 4299.
Yeah.
And give it a new one, because as long as we've got a new coding for it,
Yeah.
for the audit purposes, that's what we need.
Okay. That's fine. What would you like that to be called? Like emergency
Emergency
expenses or
general
something?
expenses.
Yeah.
It gives us a bit more flexibility to adapt to any pressing needs as well. Okay. Right. So there's two parts to this. There's to resolve the budget, which I propose we do first. But we also need to have an idea of precepts before we do that as well. So just on the point on the precepts, what are your thoughts for the difference between the 3.5 and moving towards 5%, £2.54 difference to enable the environment, so the communications, there's communications, a little bit more licensed and some other communities, some work to do. What's your preference on this? That's fair.
I didn't money is spent in the town, and you can see the benefit of the town. You can't do anything without money. You can't improve if you haven't got the budget to do it. So I think we need to seriously think about what we're going to do with the money when we put it up. It's, you know, you can't You can't do it if you haven't got the money.
Councillor Espin and Councillor Taylor.
I think we seem to be spending money wisely and for the benefit of the community, but I mean, looking at the 2 years together, 5% next year, 0% last year, 2.5% overall, that's quite reasonable in my view.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, the increase will apply to everyone. So I think as long as the events are inclusive and we make sure that, you know, we're inclusive with all people, all ages, I think that it's quite reasonable, but I think that means that we have to be extra mindful that we are inclusive in what we're doing.
Sorry, I can't. Members of the public's coming at this stage. I know it's one of those points. So, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just to say, it seems to me as though we're saying we'd like to get some more money, but we haven't planned on what we're going to spend it on yet, and we don't want to plan it until we've got it. And to me, that seems the wrong way around.
No.
Okay.
It was
Sorry.
sorry. Yes.
So I was going to say, so what I originally put forward was what we needed. The increase would be specifically to pay for the production of the newsletters.
Okay.
So you'd need a minimum really of £6,000 if you're going to do those quarterly or bi-monthly. And it also gives a buffer, a small buffer for you to decide what you want to do in terms of putting on lots of community events for 2022, 2023.
Okay. So I suppose it is joint, and we'll probably all put it together. The budget as is, with the increased precept to accommodate the communications budget, as proposed or put together by the clerk,
Which would be that figure there.
which would be 611,286. Okay. So accept the budget and the precept and the figure just mentioned. Would anybody want to propose that? Councillor Lane, Councillor Westby to second it, and a show of hands for approval. That is unanimous. Thank you. You can make a comment, Councillor Down.
I'd just like to thank the clerk, who's very new in her post, and really for doing the budget and actually explaining everything so clearly. Thank you very much from me anyway, because I could understand what you're doing, and it's not easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done. Okay. Item number 13 is correspondence. It's a donation request from the firefighters charity. On the subject of budget, we have exceeded this year's budget for donation requests. In large part, the requests that were happening through the AppCare with the UEA project, which is a large part of that, which was, shall we say, extraordinary and one that would not come up very often. So I just wanted to put that into the minds of people, but any thoughts and feelings on this?
I personally think that it's an excellent organisation. We should be supporting the fire service. They're all volunteers in Attleborough and most of Norfolk. And I would propose that we give £250 for the organisation.
Thank you. There's a proposal before we move that forward, or you second it. Is there any other comments or queries on that? Councillor Lane?
Your comment about we've probably exceeded, would it be possible to see a list over the past couple of years of who we have paid on?
I'm sure that's possible.
No, it's on the website.
It's on the website, yes, it's on the website. Sorry, thank you. Okay,
I'll second that.
so you are second that proposal, Councillor Lane. That's £250 as a donation. A show of hands for approval. Thank you, that's unanimous. Okay. Replacement van and tractor. The van, just to continue a conversation that was raised in public participation, you may or may not be aware of, was involved in an accident recently. We've had a figure offered for the van that you may not be aware of as councillors. So I can't share
I've
that.
forgotten what it was. It was just under 15,000, which was a lot more than we expected actually. So
Yeah,
that's
that's about twice as much as we budgeted for.
yeah, so that's almost netted that off. So we've essentially just upgraded our vehicle at quite a reasonable cost.
£2,000 extra.
Did you accept that or have some more?
Really?
It's a bit of a hand
We're
on.
right.
And so validated the decision made. The other part of this is we have two tractors at the moment in the town council. We have a massive furnace, an old tractor which never gets used because it isn't particularly fit for purpose and never has been rid for the town council, but was acquired. And we have a smaller John Deere tractor, which you may have seen go around because the grass from time to time in the green spaces, which is too small to do some of the jobs we need, such as hedge trimming and flailing and a few other jobs like that. The proposal in front of us is a tractor to replace the two historic ones we have, so it's the part exchange system and an additional on cost. But it's one that is fit for purpose. With us buying the other vehicle that we have done for the council, we just need one decent tractor that is big enough and powerful enough to do the jobs required of the council, so that we can reduce the amount of time and hours and the amount of money that we're having to pay to contractors to do those jobs that we could do ourselves, but don't quite have the machinery to do it. So it is effectively an ongoing saving cost. So we are focused on providing our ground staff with good equipment, and it's remarkable the change of difference it is having in their attitude. So that's the proposal.
Can I just make a small comment on that? All I wanted to say on this is this has been in the pipeline for a little while. Obviously, I did not in my wildest dreams think I'd be asking for a tractor just after I'd asked for a truck. So can you please try and forget that we've just paid for that, because we've got the insurance money back, but this has been in the budget for this year, and yeah, we've been building up and doing a lot of research to try and put this forward today.
Yeah, the budget that we had for this year, knowing that these sort of things were going to be, was about £40,000. It was £40,000 in the budget for this, and that was for new plant machinery and bits and pieces. With the expense that we've had on some of the plants already, you know, that we went to factory equipment. The staff, which is very much appreciated by them. We're not having the fumes or vibrations and the joy to work in comparison. That's good, but that's a few £1,000s gone into that. We've also had a few £1,000 upgrade on this vehicle. There's a few hand tools that we've changed over now, so rather than buying the ones from, shall we say, supermarkets, we've bought professional equipment for them, so they're able to do a professional job. However, with all of that, there is significant budget left to accommodate this. However, this is taxpayers' money, and we are looking for the best deal that we can. Okay, so we reduce the servicing costs by having a newer vehicle. We also reduce the overhead of having two vehicles and replacing with one decent model. So making the case for it, there are 3 quotes in front of us. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through them and learn your tractors.
Can I just ask one more thing, sorry?
Of course.
Because I needed to understand this for myself, so for anyone that isn't into tractors, this was quite helpful to me. And it's to do with hedge cutting, which that hedge cutting is, especially with some of our hedges, is quite an arduous task and very difficult to do with hand tools. Our current tractors are not capable of carrying the equipment needed to flail, isn't it?
Flail.
And that is because my understanding was, well, why do we need this? Why do we need a bigger tractor? That is why, because in terms of how quickly and how productive they can be with hedge cutting, it stops us having to pay people to come in and do it, and it stops us having to use hand tools for what is essentially a tractor job.
Just to give you an idea, the hedge mentioned earlier cost us over £1,000 to get professionally earlier in the year. So it is something that we want to reduce costs in. Councillor Wilson.
I'm all for that. That's seems eminently sensible. I'm just wondering what's the benefit between the, is there any benefit between the different makes of tractor? Or are they essentially the same?
Does anybody here know about that?
No.
Get around Walgreens.
There are some tractors now trying to be. The Coyote one is probably a lesser brand. Moto is a well-known one, and then you've also got the New Holland, the blue tractors you'll see around, quite commonly used.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, that's probably the one you've only heard of. And it would be serviced, and these vehicles would be serviced by local people as well, so they're coming through local dealerships. We have a particularly good working relationship with Ernest O's. That's probably why their exchange rate has come out better and has come out at the best quotation.
Heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Lane, was Councillor Taylor, did you have your hand up as well? Sorry, I don't know which one had the hand up first.
Yeah, all I was going to ask is obviously Michelle's just said that she's, put quite a lot of research into this, so I was going to ask if she had a recommendation from that research on.
Well, I didn't know about tractors, so yeah, we've seen the reps and I've asked a lot and I've obviously spoken to the staff. My understanding is that this is probably the least capable of the three.
Which one's that?
The Baggies quote.
Right.
They've been very helpful, but they don't actually specialise in tractors with cabs on, so they've had to go and look for something different to meet our needs. It's not something they specialise in. These two, I think either will do the job very well.
They will. It's pretty much of a muchness, to be honest, between the two. New Holland is probably known a little bit more in the industry, but the make that they're referring to as an alternative is also a reputable make. So it comes down to they both do the job. They've both got the same specification, as much as we're able to get them side by side.
The one from TNS, the Kubota.
Yes.
It lists on the features a rear linkage. So the other one doesn't, I don't know what a rear linkage is, I don't know how important it is, but the other one doesn't mention it. So if it's important, then maybe we look at that one.
The rear linkage is on every New Holland tractor.
Fine.
And it's part of the PTO differential losses.
All right.
So they are, yes. So it's just a difference of terminology.
I can see it's the air conditioning and that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Lane, you did raise your hand, and then Councillor Ellis. Sorry.
Am I being thick here, or this TNS, what's the trading?
Oh, turn it
On the
over.
side.
No, it's double-sided, sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry.
They gave us the price with or without trading.
And second point on that, is this the lease?
No.
That is not, because it says here.
We did ask for both.
Right, okay.
Yeah. There is a contract. Probably the circumstances to keep the residual value of these, and because they are new vehicles, a purchase would probably be recommended.
Yeah.
The difference between them is the one from TNS is 17,000, the one from Edstone is 15,250. So there's 1,750 difference between the two, and they are effectively the same specification. I think under that, I personally feel we save some money.
We see.
Just a query, the TNS one, it says it comes with a 2-year warranty. Whereas the Ernest Bow one comes with a 1-year warranty. Warranty.
Not, I mean, that is what it is, obviously. Just an interesting point that was raised by Anne while you were having a discussion, is that from the feedback we've had from the groundsman, this company tends to be known for very good aftercare. Whether that makes a difference.
With it, yes.
I was going to say, we've got You say we've got to be working right.
Yeah, our head grounds person has said, yes, they've always looked after us very well. I didn't want to raise that in the conversation, you know, at the beginning, but yes, that the after sales.
It says the warranty for the next being extended anyway. Obviously, there's 0% finance available as well.
There is, yes, but it's the budget of it. These vehicles are around about a 5 to 6 month lead time as well. So the decisions we make now are going to be, you know, later in the year that we see the fruition of these. However, the New Holland is probably the one. I know you mentioned there's a year difference in warranty on it. New tractors generally of this kind don't have significant issues with it. First views of workhorses, and what we do as a council compared to what they used elsewhere, it is a question of that hard.
So is this tractor's different size to the one currently?
It is, yeah, it's making the next side, yeah.
Is there any impact on the driving licenses?
No, it's because it's something that's certain tonnage, they already have license. Okay. So,
But we could always extend the warranty anyway.
we could, if we felt necessary.
And I don't think that would be terrifically expensive.
To be honest with the Ancestry of Ennistos and New Holland, they are terrifically expensive. They would be significantly less still than the other one.
Yeah.
Councillor Lane and then Councillor Dale.
Well, I was going to propose that we go for the Anstone.
Okay, so we'll just hold on there, see if there's any.
I was going to propose that we take the other stone.
Okay, so we have a proposal and a second. If we can have a show of hands for approval, please.
Oh, hang on, did Joe want to say something?
Sorry, Joe, did
No,
you want?
you're right.
Sorry, I didn't see you had the councillor, you're more than welcome to do that before we.
Everybody's gone for this New Holland. TNS are based 200 yards from where we keep the tracks. And you're saying that the lead time on this one from TNS is roughly about 5 months, the same as New Holland. You're going to miss your pitch cutting this year, aren't you?
We are, but we're trying to, you know, correct it for the future. You are like councillor Edison.
Yeah.
So the proposal's been put that we accept the Ennisfell offer. If we could have a show of hands for approval, please. Any opposed? And any abstentions? One abstention, councillor Edison. Thank you. Okay, there's an update on the new website.
There should be an update on the new website. They said that they would have drafted me this week. I was hoping I'd have it by today, but I haven't, I'm afraid. So that is still due to be with us at some point this week.
Okay, so we'll postpone that item if you're agreeable till next month. Okay, thank you. And the parish partnership scheme, if you've had a chance to read through this, it's particularly for highways, infrastructure and transport. If you have a look at some of the suggestions on what sort of things might be acceptable, but it is a 50-50 contribution, so there would be a requirement for the council to put funds in, their match fund, as it were, for this pot of money. I know that Councillor Montague mentioned about the electrics.
Yeah.
It doesn't specifically say mention of that, and the conversations that we're having with Brecon and Northern Council and other forums, that's going to be picked up pretty well by them anyway, because they're putting the mandates and that.
So are we saying that Norfolk and Brecon are or have a plan for Attleborough and other places?
They are developing one at present.
They are.
Yes, yeah.
So Attleborough will not be left behind.
We are told we are not. We are an equal partner. That's what we were told the other day.
So it'd be nice if we were right out in the front.
We'll do our best. Sorry, Councillor Lane.
Reading this through, it says the what sort of schemes would be acceptable. It's on this page 2. It says full length of 4 footway, cars at 2 property. Could I suggest that we pass this to environment? Environment, so maybe.
Yeah, to be fair, that was a good idea because one of those things we discussed when we did our walk around, the small length of formal footway, which we were having a chat with a housing developer who's doing the North London road site, about linking the pathway that we have existing on the opposite side of our developments to Decoy Common, because we have a small bit of green verge that would nice if it's on the pathway that allows us to link another green space. That's probably the one out of all of these things that may be worth having a look at. And if you did a joint thing through having a conversation with that developer, we may be able to get them to put 50% in. And we can put, get the county to put 50% in, so it's a net cost to the town council. But that certainly for environmental would be a good conversation. Are we in agreement?
Sorry, can you just interject? I don't think the deadline is for environmental this week.
It's this week, is it?
I think we're getting close to the deadline.
Yeah, to actually have a conversation with the developer and get that going forward.
10th of December,
We're a bit behind.
which is Friday.
Okay, so we're not going to get a chance to do that then. So, yes, Councillor Lane,
Does this came in June? Is this a reminder?
it is. Yeah. The last time it was raised in council wasn't taken into account. But that is the only thing I can think of that we could utilise. But that will be several £1,000s even of contribution towards that, because they'll do the work themselves, which won't be activated perhaps looking at. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm thinking about is I've just seen it says new bus shelter or shelter lighting. I raised it in a meeting the other week about a bus stop on New Road. Well, the lady rang me again following that meeting, and it's not on New Road that she wants the bus stop, it's that end of Parkham Road. So the end of Parkham Road is obviously town, on the New Road side of things. So there has been a request that's been made to me. I had spoken to Jason Cole about it and was waiting from Breckland and was waiting on an update on whether or not there was any allocation within any of the development for additional bus shelters. But if there's an offer here, I think that could be something that's worth considering. Just because when she rang me, she's 86, she's got a friend or a neighbour that's in her 90s, and they do struggle to get about, and it's either the one that's halfway down New Road, or the alternative is the Dodds Road, and either way, from where they are, it's split the track.
Yes. I refer to you as a councillor, how you feel about this. It is funding that will be required by the town council to match this. Is this being one of the projects that we're willing to submit to? Because if we do say yes to this, we have to have the application by the end of this week. And you are committing to that funding as well.
Could we potentially ask, I know this obviously, there is a deadline. It says new bus shelter. I don't know if it would have to be a bus shelter or if she'd just like a stop. Do you know what I mean? So that they don't have to walk so far to a stop. I don't know if it would be.
Now that's a conversation.
If it would be cheaper, obviously, but whether or not there would be scope for it.
It's one of those things that we can't do unilaterally as well, because it's a separate operator, and the process of having those discussions, it's months, it isn't even days or weeks, is it? So the council
I was going to say, presumably there's rules for positioning the bus stops.
There is.
And do they fall under us, or is that somebody at high level?
Well, highways usually, but also we take on the ownership and maintenance of said bus shelter as a long-term asset as well. It's probably a little premature at this stage with the timescale we have to this, because we've got to speak to the operator, and we've got to confirm both the locations appropriate and other things before we're able to submit a detailed plan and application, which is what they're asking.
I was just going to say that getting the bus operator to actually stop at the stop because I don't know what their obligation is.
Okay. Perhaps we'll take that forward and explore the bus stop as a first instance.
Not the county council will be building down there, on their land, so I think that's something we could ask bus shelter on a 6 agreement, you know, bus stop. I don't know if it's going to be a long meeting, but, you know, it's something to keep in mind if we can't do anything.
You know, that sounds fantastic in that way that they understand. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yep.
And they take ownership. Fantastic. Sorry, we can't defer at the moment to the public without a resolution to do so.
She's a councillor.
Oh, you are, councillor, sorry, yes, you are. Yeah, sorry. Yes, you are. So you said, sorry.
Well, it's really funny information. I mean, when the number 13 got routed away from coming up Dodds Road and then round New Road, they moved the bus stop from the top of Dodds Road across the other side of Norwich Road. Well, it's marked as a bus stop, but you still have to walk over wet grass and mud to get onto the bus. So I don't know whether who is responsible for putting actually a hard standing area so you can actually walk on the bus from the stop rather than having to just walk over mud and grass to get onto the bus.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. It's what we could explore. I think you probably would. It is highways well. Defer to someone with more expertise in this field than we do. So it's certainly something we can pursue and ask the question on. We should do on behalf of those.
It's quite coincidental that actually there's one just further down near to the new school. That literally about 100 yards apart, you've got 2 bus stops. I'm not complaining because it's right up here, near where I am, but still, it's messy to have to walk across that and then get to the bus.
Perhaps we can have this raised in light in the environmental committee.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, because obviously there's now the one that's just been discussed on Harpton Road.
Yeah.
And then there's this one further down, so.
That would be the best forum to have a discussion and make an action plan to go forward on that.
Yeah.
Okay. If councillors in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so what we're saying is we don't have a project that we can put together for them at the moment.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, okay. So, public participation. Nigel. Easy man tonight.
Item 12.
Yes.
Your budget.
Yeah.
Let's clarify. It costs 3.5% or 5% increase?
5%.
5. Okay. And in your it's a hell of a thing to do a forecast budget, I sympathise. What allowances made in there for increase from tenancy income? Any or none? Bearing in mind you haven't had any for the last God knows how many years.
There is provision for increased tenancy. It is listed in the which is a public document now as part of the meeting plan.
Good. Have we got any movement on that yet? So, and that's just wanted to point a chart of survey, was it by the
Yeah, with the survey work has been, all the new evaluations on the survey work being previously conducted has been updated. The councillors have received a copy of that, and we are in the process of meeting with tenants or about to meet with tenants in the discussions, which will then be presented back to councillors for decision.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, please.
Yeah, just a quick one, because I lost out for a heritage group, people who don't know me. I did attend the Homes England display in here last Tuesday. Spent a long while talking with the architects and planners on 2 environmental issues. One of them is that Anglian Water has got some outfalls from the foul sewage system that in times of spate conditions, it sends all the stormwater out into the river that's going to go right through the sewer. The trouble with this is it does take raw sewage with it, so it pollutes the area going down the stream which goes through that area. They were unaware of this, even though for 8 years I've been working with John Thompson Partnership and Ptarmigan and brought up these problems with them. It seems like Ptarmigan has no doubt not passed on these issues. The other issue is that down Lays Lane in the 50s, there was a very large redundant gravel and sand workings down there, which over the years gradually got filled in with rubbish. Most of the local builders, Keith gone, but most of the local builders ended up dumping all the rubbish down there, and I think there was household rubbish dumped in as well. I gave Ptarmigan the information and the backup materials for that, because they were going to build houses on top of that area. When they had the next public meeting, they decided to turn it into a green area instead. So my first thought was, yes, that's good, you're not trying to build houses on this unstable area, but what about if that's a green area and children playing on it? Is there anything going to be coming out of the ground that could cause them damage? The extra problem that has come up now is that Homes England have rebooted the link road that's going through, and it's going to, this area could interfere with the plans that they're doing. They've got my details, they're going to get in touch with me, the specialists, to talk over the problems with the sewage going down the stream and the outfalls. And I believe they're going to look at rerouting yet again the road to come away from that area. I'm quite happy to share all this information with the Environmental Committee if they're interested in that type of thing. But obviously I will still be pursuing it with them. I hope they can come back to me. If they don't, I'll be getting in touch with them.
No, thank you very much for assisting in that. Homes England, I must say, are doing a sterling job. They are really looking at this in a productive way and an efficient way to move this forward. But the more information that we have locally to assist them in this means the outcome will prevent any such issues or mitigate against them. So thank you very much for communicating that with them. The Environmental Committee, just to clarify, are focused predominantly on those matters of which the town council are primarily responsible. So it's our own green spaces, the bits that we own, the bits that we can influence and make decisions over. There is in progress a new group that is being organised, hopefully soonish. I can't give an exact time or details on this publicly yet, but they will be the ones that are dealing with the areas outside of the direct remit and responsibility of the town council. So should any issues, say for instance you've raised, not be brought up or not be pursued, it will give us an opportunity to raise them there as well.
I'd be happy to get involved, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the public?
Say something.
Yeah.
You're purchasing your new tractor, purchasing your hedge cutter with it.
Yes.
Do you realise that you can fly a hedge with it, hedge cut top with it if you like, and make investments cut the hedge? You can get there we call a motion head. When they cut the hedge, that puts it to one late one, so they right, so it keeps it tidy.
Thank you. That's called a mulching.
Yeah, it's called a motion head. Just see if you could change your private head to a motion head. Your job a lot tidier.
Thank you very much for that knowledge. Right. Much appreciated. Anyone else? Sorry, Nigel.
It might be one for preventing communications. I did ask a while ago, you did have a hearing for an AMP, any sort of visual display so members of the public could follow your agenda. Because we're all sat here with killing trees, bits of paper. You don't necessarily need to, but I've only ever seen it once. Is it something?
No, it is being done. I've got to set that up technically yet. There is a way to do that, but I haven't done so yet. We need a new laptop as a town council to allow us to do that. The old one died a death So you've probably seen some of our, shall we say, intermittent recordings as the system gave up that have been on YouTube recently. Hence, it's on my laptop today and not the town council's. So I feel a little bit better, but we will address that, and there will be agendas up on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. It's nice to finish before 9. I don't have any other items that I'd like to raise. Councillors, is there anything else you want to raise? Well, in that case, then we will conclude the meeting.